Hey friends, thanks for joining me for another video about bugs. I've actually just finished making a butterfly feeder that Mrs. Offerman taught us how to make last week. If this is something you'd like to make for your yard, go ahead and watch that video and she'll teach you all about how to do it. But right now we're going to find a good spot to hang this in my yard, so let's see. Let's try right there. That looks like a good spot. But a butterfly is not the insect that we're going to talk about today. Actually, we're going to talk about ants. And we're going to start right over here by my peony plants, where there are a ton of ants having a little meal. I brought my magnifying glass. Let's take a closer look and see what they're up to. Alright, so let's pick a good place to start here. Now the open flowers, they're not that great to start. Most of the ants will not be on there. What we need is one that's not open yet. And that looks like a perfect candidate. So let's get our magnifying glass ready and take a look. Oh yes. This one is full of ants crawling around. Now let me tell you why these ants have come to this particular flower. Ants are always looking for food. In this case, these little insects are looking for nectar, which is a sugary sweet liquid that is produced by many flowers. When the first ants arrive at the plant and discover the nectar, they will explore the bulb and make sure that what they've found will be good for the rest of the ants in their colony. A colony is a name for the group of ants that live and work together. As an ant goes to the flower and returns to the colony, it uses its antenna to follow a trail that was left by the first ants. Here you can see ants using their antenna to communicate with each other. The first one is probably telling the other two that this is a good place to get food, so the ants continue up the stem to join the others. But the ants are not the only bugs that enjoy the nectar. Nectar attracts lots of bugs, and some of them are good for the flower, and some of them are not. The ants help the peony by letting the good bugs stay and by keeping the harmful bugs away. The ants use their antenna to check out those little green flies, and it appears that they are all right to stay. The ants and the peony have what is called a symbiotic relationship. Now that's a big word. Symbiotic. This means that the ant and the flower help each other. The ant gets food from the flower, and the flower gets protection from the ant. Now this tiny jumping spider is interested in this flower as well, but not for the nectar. Spiders eat other bugs, and this one is probably just looking for a meal too. When an ant sees the spider, it rushes in to make sure it's not a problem. Whew, that was a close call. The spider makes its way to the flower bulb and continues its search for food. Now here you can see two ants protecting the flower by cutting up a bug with their sharp mouth parts. Ants don't have teeth like us. We're going to see what they have later in this video. In addition to nectar, these ants eat bugs as well, and they will probably eat this one. Hey friends, I'm taking a walk here in one of my local parks when I stumbled on probably the biggest ant hill that I have ever seen in my life. I've got my magnifying glass here, so how about we take a closer look at this ant hill. The first thing I noticed at the ant hill was just how many ants there were and how busy they all were. None of the ants were standing still. They were all doing something, and this is important to the success of an ant colony. Remember, colony is the name of the group of ants that live and work together. If you remember on the peony bush, We saw those ants using their antennae to talk with each other, follow trails left by other ants, and learn things about other bugs. These ants communicate using their antennae as well. It looks like they are just bumping heads, but they are telling each other where to go, and learning other information as well. This is important because there are so many ways in and out of the hill, and without direction, it would be easy to get lost. On the surface, I counted almost 50 different holes that serve as entrances to the hill. All of these holes lead to hundreds of tunnels and different rooms underground. They have rooms to store food, rooms for their eggs, and rooms to care for their young after they've hatched. They also have tunnels to escape the hill if danger arrives, and tunnels that keep the anthill warm and cold when needed. Watch as they come and go. Ants have muscles just like people, but they are much stronger than us. They can lift objects that are 10 to 50 times heavier than they are. That would be like a preschool friend carrying a refrigerator over their head to the playground. This ant is carrying a large chunk of dirt from one of the tunnels. And this ant is carrying an even larger piece, although maybe it was a bit too heavy. This ant has a bug that it will carry down to one of the food rooms underground. As I was watching the anthill, I noticed that some of the ants had crawled onto my shoe. Certain ants have the job of protecting the colony, and these ants are making sure that I meant no harm. Some ants have a painful bite or sting that they'll use on intruders. These ants didn't bite or sting, but it's always good to pay attention and to be safe around animals. As I got up to leave, the ants were doing exactly the same thing as when I got there. They were busy digging, collecting food, and working to help the colony. Now that we've had a chance to see some ants in the wild, let's take a closer look at a few that I've collected using our magnification tools. First, we use our magnifying glass, and then we'll look even closer using my special microscope. Come on in and let's take a closer look. So here you'll see I have 3 ants, and even though they're different sizes and different colors, each of these ants is an insect. And insects all have the same types of body parts. They'll each have 6 legs, they'll each have 2 antennae coming out of their head, they'll each have 3 main parts of their body, and they'll also each have an exoskeleton, which means their skeleton is on the outside of their body. If we use our magnifying glass, I'll bet we can get a closer look at this big one and see those body parts. There you can see. You can easily count the 6 legs. You can easily count the 3 main body parts. And you can see the 2 antennae on top of the head there. Let's use our microscope to get an even closer look. In this zoomed in view, we can really see the different parts of the ant. Starting at the top, we've got the head, and attached to the head are the 2 antennae, as you can see here. The head connects to the thorax, which is kind of like the chest. And attached to the thorax are the 6 legs, 3 sticking out from each side. And at the very end, you have the abdomen. An abdomen is another name for the stomach. So the last part is the stomach of the ant. If we zoom in even further on the head, you can see the mouth parts that we discussed earlier. As you can see, they don't look anything like our mouth. In fact, they actually act more like scissors, and they'll use these to cut things apart. You can get a close-up view of the ant's eye as well. which again doesn't look anything like ours. Here's where the antenna attached to the head, and here's a zoomed in view of what the antenna would look like up close. If we go to our medium-sized ant, we can zoom in closely and get an even better look at what an ant's eye looks like. There it is. There's the antenna and where it attaches to the head. And earlier I said that this ant has some hairs on its abdomen, on the last part of its body. And there you can see that the hairs are actually gold, and they cover almost the entire abdomen. You can also see gold bands or rings that go around the abdomen. On the biggest ant, let's take a look at the body parts again. There's the head with the antenna. If we go to the next part, we see the thorax, or the chest, and that's where the legs and the wings attach. And behind the wings, you can see its abdomen, or stomach. You can also see the end of one of the feet. It has those little hooks which it uses for crawling. I hope you enjoyed this video on ants today. I know I enjoyed watching them. The next time that you're outside and you see an ant crawling, take some time and watch. See where it's going, see if it's carrying anything. Maybe you can follow it and find your own anthill. Whatever you do, just take the time to look. You'll almost certainly find something.